Paddy Pimblett recently delivered strong criticism of Colby Covington, rejecting the idea that Covington is a decent person away from the cameras. Pimblett made it clear that he does not believe the narrative often pushed by fans and insiders who claim Covington is friendly and respectful behind the scenes. According to Pimblett, Covington's public behavior is not an act that disappears once the cameras are turned off, but rather a reflection of how he is perceived by many people within the MMA community. Pimblett stated that Covington is widely disliked and suggested that the loud, confrontational persona he displays in public is not something people find amusing or clever. He emphasized that, in his experience, most fighters and individuals he has spoken to do not hold Covington in high regard. Pimblett dismissed the idea that Covington behaves differently in private, arguing that the supposed contrast between his public image and his private character does not line up with what others say about him. He went as far as labeling Covington as someone who deliberately puts on an act for attention, yet still manages to alienate those around him. The Liverpool lightweight also mocked Covington's perceived political connection, brushing off claims that Covington is favored by prominent political figures. Pimblett implied that such associations are overstated and suggested that even those figures are unlikely to genuinely support Covington. He added a competitive jab by pointing out that he himself has achieved more notable victories in high-profile settings, reinforcing his belief that Covington's reputation is inflated beyond his accomplishments. In addition to his comments on Covington, Pimblett discussed the possibility of coaching on a future season of The Ultimate Fighter. He expressed strong interest in taking on a coaching role, saying it is something he would genuinely enjoy and believe would make for entertaining television. Pimblett noted that he had previously entertained similar ideas with other fighters, imagining how their personality could create a compelling season, though those discussions never materialized into reality. When the topic turned to a potential coaching matchup with Ilia Topuria, Pimblett acknowledged that such a season would be highly intense. He suggested that constant security would be necessary due to the tension and rivalry that would likely exist between them. According to Pimblett, the level of animosity would require strict measures to keep order, but he also hinted that this very intensity is what could make the season memorable and exciting for fans. Ilia Topuria recently responded to comments made by Paddy Pimblett, offering a measured and professional reaction while acknowledging Pimblett's respectful words regarding his personal life. Pimblett had stated that, despite their rivalry, he wished Topuria nothing but the best in dealing with family matters and personal issues, stressing that those matters were separate from any potential fight between them. He made it clear that his focus remained on competing inside the octagon while hoping that everything outside of fighting worked out positively for Topuria. Pimblett also touched on the competitive stakes surrounding the situation, suggesting that if Topuria were unable to return by mid-year, there could be implications for the championship picture. He hinted that a prolonged absence might lead to the belt being vacated, which would open the door for a new undisputed champion without a direct fight taking place. While maintaining a competitive tone, Pimblett framed his comments around timing and opportunity rather than personal criticism. In response, Topuria acknowledged Pimblett's remarks with a surprisingly positive outlook. He described Pimblett as an entertaining personality who has done an excellent job building his profile in the sport. Topuria referenced past controversies involving Pimblett, noting that mistakes have been made, but emphasized that growth and learning are part of a fighter's journey. He suggested that, at his core, Pimblett is someone who understands the importance of family and respects personal struggles, which Topuria clearly valued. Topuria went on to draw a clear distinction between personal life and professional competition. He stressed that issues outside the cage should never be confused with what happens inside it. According to Topuria, the anticipation surrounding a potential matchup comes from the sport challenge and competitive tension, not from personal hardship or family matters. He made it clear that his private life has no bearing on his professionalism or his readiness to compete at the highest level. Emphasizing mutual professionalism, Topuria stated that both fighters are ultimately professionals who understand the nature of the sport. He expressed confidence that if and when they meet in the octagon, the fight will be handled with respect and intensity befitting a high-level contest. Topuria concluded by highlighting that this is the kind of matchup fans want to see, one driven by skill, rivalry, and competition, and suggested that the clash would be highly entertaining for everyone watching. Tom Aspinall recently shared his thoughts on the possibility of stepping into the boxing ring, revealing that while he has no ambitions of becoming a professional boxing world champion, he is open to the idea of taking part in major crossover bouts. Aspinall explained that pursuing a legitimate world title in boxing would require complete dedication to the sport, something he does not see as realistic at this stage of his career after spending his entire life focused on mixed martial arts. He acknowledged that, although he has a solid boxing base and feels comfortable with his hands, transitioning fully into boxing in his 30s with championship expectations would be unrealistic. Aspinall emphasized that boxing at the highest level demands years of singular focus, and dividing attention between disciplines would not allow him to compete with lifelong boxers chasing world titles. However, he did not dismiss boxing altogether and suggested there could be space for carefully selected, high-profile fights. According to Aspinall, as a heavyweight, certain opportunities exist that are not as accessible in lighter divisions. He pointed out that heavyweights often carry knockout power and speed, which can make crossover fights more competitive and exciting. He suggested that he could take part in a couple of preparatory bouts, not as novelty or exhibition contests, but as meaningful, high-profile matchups against well-known names. In his view, these kinds of fights could be commercially viable and appealing to fans. During the discussion, the topic of crossover boxing was expanded to include popular figures in the space. Aspinall expressed skepticism about the matchmaking often seen in influencer boxing, questioning how fighters can jump between opponents of vastly different levels. He made it clear that certain comparisons do not make sense competitively, and implied that he would be confident against some of the names frequently mentioned in crossover discussions. When asked who would make the most sense as an opponent if he had full control over matchmaking, Aspinall highlighted Francis Ngannou as a particularly intriguing option. He described Ngannou as a strong and marketable opponent, noting that such a fight would be massive in terms of attention and financial potential. Aspinall appeared genuinely enthusiastic about the idea, suggesting it would be a compelling contest that fans would be eager to watch. Despite the excitement surrounding potential boxing opportunities, Aspinall stressed that his immediate focus remains on his obligations in the UFC. He acknowledged that there are still important fights to be handled within mixed martial arts before any crossover plans could be seriously considered. Nevertheless, he recognized the financial upside of big boxing events, referencing past crossover spectacles as proof that there is significant money to be made when major names from different combat sports collide. Daniel Cormier recently shared his analysis on the UFC flyweight title picture, explaining why he believes Manel Kape now has a strong and legitimate case to receive the next championship opportunity. Cormier acknowledged the momentum behind Tetsuro Taira, particularly highlighting Taira's victory over a former world champion. He emphasized that such a win carries significant value and represents the most impressive result of Taira's career so far. However, Cormier also pointed out that context matters when evaluating performances at the highest level. But according to Cormier, there were moments in Taira's fight that left room for debate. He noted that some observers felt the bout may have been stopped prematurely, referencing Brandon Moreno's visible reaction immediately after the finish. Cormier suggested that there were valid reasons to believe Moreno could have continued, which introduces uncertainty when assessing how definitive that victory truly was. While he did not dismiss Taira's accomplishment, he stressed that these details naturally become part of the broader discussion when deciding who deserves the next title shot. Cormier then contrasted that situation with Manel Kape's recent performance against Brandon Royval. He made it clear that there was no controversy or ambiguity surrounding that result. In his view, the outcome of Kape versus Royval left no unanswered questions, as the fight was decisive and convincing. Cormier emphasized that nobody is arguing Royval could have continued or that the result was questionable. For him, that level of clarity significantly strengthens Kape's argument in the title race. Another key point raised by Cormier was the importance of recent head-to-head results when building a contender's resume. He reminded fans that Royval had previously defeated Taira which adds another layer to Cape's case. From a competitive standpoint, Cormier explained that Cape and his team can logically argue that he has now beaten the fighter who beat another top contender. In the highly competitive flyweight division, these connections matter when determining who should be next in line. Cormier concluded by emphasizing that the title picture is not always straightforward, but recent performances should carry substantial weight. He suggested that Cape's current form, combined with the decisiveness of his victory and the broader context of recent matchups, places him firmly in the conversation for a title shot. He also briefly mentioned that a potential matchup between Manel Cape and Joshua Van would be an explosive, striking battle, underscoring just how exciting and talent-rich the flyweight division has become. Tim Welch recently offered his perspective on Merab Dvalishvili's loss of the bantamweight title, suggesting that fame and outside distractions may have played a meaningful role in the outcome. According to Welch, becoming a champion often brings a wave of new opportunities beyond fighting, and managing those opportunities can be challenging. He implied that Merab may have been affected by the lifestyle changes that come with holding a title, while his opponent, Petr Yan, approached the fight with complete focus and urgency. Welch explained that once a fighter becomes champion and successfully defends the belt multiple times, life outside the cage begins to change dramatically. Champions are frequently invited to social events, paid appearances, dinners, and promotional commitments. While these opportunities are rewarding, Welch believes they can take away from the single-minded dedication required for elite-level fight preparation. In contrast, he described Yan's mindset as one of total sacrifice, noting that Yan left his family, separated himself from his everyday life, and fully immersed himself in training camp as if the fight were the most important of his career. When asked whether Merab's loss was due to his own shortcomings or Yan's excellence, Welch suggested it was a combination of both. He speculated that Merab's preparation for this fight may not have matched the intensity of previous camps, particularly when compared to his title-winning performance against Sean O'Malley. Welch observed that Merab did not appear as physically sharp or as shredded as he had in past fights, which he interpreted as a possible sign of a different approach to training and recovery. Welch also highlighted specific moments from the fight that stood out to him on review. He pointed to Merab's signature high crotch takedown position, where Merab typically controls opponents against the waist and wears them down for extended periods each round. In this fight, however, Welch noticed Merab repeatedly elbowing his own forearm aggressively during those exchanges. After several rounds, Merab could be seen holding his forearm, which Welch believes may have caused significant discomfort or injury. According to Welch, that potential injury could have disrupted Merab's rhythm and effectiveness, limiting his ability to apply pressure and control positions as he normally does. Combined with Yan's relentless preparation and sharp execution, these factors may have tilted the balance of the fight. Welch concluded that the loss should not be seen as a single failure, but rather as the result of subtle difference in focus, preparation, and physical condition that can make all the difference at the championship level. Bryce Mitchell recently launched a heated and emotional public rant directed at Ilia Topuria following Topuria's latest public statement. Mitchell, who previously fought Topuria in 2022 and lost via second round arm triangle choke, used the moment to reignite their rivalry and demand a rematch. In a video posted to his Instagram account, Mitchell expressed lingering resentment over both the fight result and what he perceived as personal disrespect afterward. Mitchell recalled how, following their bout, Topuria mocked him by wearing overalls, making fun of Mitchell's farming lifestyle. According to Mitchell, that gesture stayed with him and symbolized a deeper lack of respect. He framed his response as deeply personal, tying it to his upbringing and values. Mitchell spoke about growing up without a father and explained that, in his view, witnessing domestic violence would have been far worse than growing up without one. He made it clear that violence against women is something he finds completely unacceptable, and claimed that such behavior would never be tolerated where he comes from. Throughout the video, Mitchell repeatedly attacked Tapiria's character, accusing him of actions that he described as disgraceful and unforgivable. He claimed that these alleged actions disqualify Tapiria from respect both as a man and as a father. Mitchell's tone was aggressive and confrontational as he insisted that Tapiria was undeserving of his success and challenged him and even his family members to fights, stating that circumstances during their first bout prevented him from performing at his best. The rant then shifted from personal anger to moral and religious condemnation. Mitchell framed his criticism through his Christian beliefs, stating that everyone falls short spiritually but that repentance is necessary for forgiveness. He urged Tapiria to repent, return to his faith, and change his lifestyle. Including what Mitchell suggested were issues with alcohol, he warned that failure to do so would have serious spiritual consequences, emphasizing that his condemnation was rooted in his understanding of morality and faith. Mitchell also criticized Tapiria's personal relationships, using them as an analogy to championship belts and arguing that marriage should be between one man and one woman. He portrayed himself as someone who lives by traditional values and suggested that Tapiria should learn from his example. Despite the intensity of his remarks, Mitchell ended the video by promoting his own content and thanking viewers, finishing with a blessing. The overall message blended and resolved rivalry, personal grievance, moral judgment, and religious conviction into one of the most intense verbal attacks directed at Tapiria to date.